72 hours. That is how long the number has been zero. You know it is zero. You checked it 4 minutes ago, and 4 minutes before that, and at 2:14 in the morning when you woke for no reason and reached for the phone before your eyes had finished opening. The number does not change. The number has never changed. But you pull your thumb down the screen anyway, refreshing a page that could not possibly have anything new to tell you, because refreshing is the only thing left that still feels like doing something. The 11th one. You had been so careful this time. You did the research the way you taught yourself to do it, the searching, the reading, the 3 weeks of watching before you committed a single dollar. You told yourself this was the one where you had finally been patient enough. On the kitchen table, the notebook is open to tonight's date. The line beneath it is empty. You have written one line every night for 14 months. You cannot write this one because you already know what it would say, and you do not want to see it in your own handwriting. Tobias is asleep. The dishwasher is running. Somewhere underneath the hum, the house is quiet in a way that feels like it is waiting for you to admit something. You close the laptop. Tomorrow you will tell yourself you closed it because you were tired. 13 months earlier, you were happy. That is the part nobody believes when you tell the story later. There was no crisis, no layoff, no humiliation, no manager who made you cry in a parking garage. You liked your job. You still like your job. You are good at it in a way that took years to become true. And on the mornings when everything lines up, you can feel the competence sitting in your hands like a tool worn smooth. So the story does not start with escape. It starts on a Thursday in a booth. The Thai place on the corner has 8 tables and a television nobody has ever identified the channel of. The vinyl on the seats is split along the same seam it has been split along for years, patched with a strip of tape gone the color of weak tea. Your booth is the one by the window, the one that wobbles. Keisha always takes the side that does not. That night, she had her laptop open next to the curry. That was new. Keisha never brought work anywhere. Keisha was the one who put her phone in her bag at dinner, who had never once asked what you earned, who split every check straight down the middle without looking at it. And there she was with a spreadsheet up, apologizing, saying, "Give me 1 second," saying, "I just have to check something." You asked what it was. She told you. It was small, a few hundred a month, and most of that went straight back in. But she used the word mine. You went home and could not stop turning it over. Not the money, the word. Because here's the thing about being good at a job you love. None of it belongs to you. The skill is yours, the output is not. You have spent a decade building something enormous with your fingerprints all over it and someone else's name on the door, and you had never once minded until a woman in a taped vinyl booth said one syllable and made you notice the shape of the thing you did not have. You did not want out. You wanted one thing that was yours. Here is what you told Tobias, and here is what was actually true. What you told him. It is a fun project. It is low risk. I am capping it at a few $100s. What was true? You had done the arithmetic on your own life and found it unbalanced. One income, one employer, one set of skills that were valuable in exactly one context. If that context ended, and contexts end, you have watched them end for people better than you, then everything ended at the same moment. You did not want a second income. You wanted a second leg. That is the part people get wrong about building something on the side. It is not greed, it is structural. 2 things that can hold you up are not twice as good as one. They are a different category of safe. And there was a second thing, quieter, that you noticed a month in and never said out loud. It gave you your weekends back. You used to fill Saturdays with going somewhere, anywhere, the mall, brunch, a drive that ended at a place you did not need to be, and every one of those hours had a price attached that you paid without noticing. Now Saturday morning had a purpose that cost nothing, and the money you were no longer spending was, in a strange, sideways way, the first profit you ever made. You gave yourself an hour, 9:20 to 10:20, after the kitchen was done, before you were too tired to think. You spent the first 6 weeks of that hour buying nothing at all. That was the discipline nobody warns you about, because it does not look like anything. You watched, you read, reviews mostly, not the 5 stars, the 3s, because the 3s are where people tell the truth about what almost worked. You learned to notice when 100 different people complained about the same small thing in 100 slightly different ways. You learned that a good idea feels like a hunch, and a real one feels like a pattern, and that the distance between them is about 3 weeks of boredom you have to be willing to sit inside. You bought a course. You finished 40% of it. You bought another one. You finished less. You did not notice that yet. Every night at 10:20, you wrote one line in the notebook, the date, and one thing. Some nights the line said, "Learned nothing." You wrote it anyway. That, it will turn out, is the only part of the entire first year you got completely right. It worked. Understand, you had prepared yourself to be patient. You had promised yourself 6 months of silence. So when the first order came in at 11:40 on a Tuesday morning in the middle of a meeting and your phone buzzed against your thigh from a notification you had set up in a fit of optimism 3 weeks earlier, you had to hold your face very still. One order, $19 and change, and most of it was not yours. You have never in your life been happier about $11, then 4 the next day, then 9, then a week where you stopped counting them one at a time because counting them one at a time stopped being possible, and you understood with a rush that felt almost chemical that something existed in the world which people wanted, and you were the one who had put it there. The first month cleared $340. You told Keisha at the Thai place, and she shrieked loudly enough that the man behind the counter looked up. You told Tobias, and he said, "That is amazing," in the specific voice of a man who is proud of you and does not entirely understand what you have done. You told your mother, and Donna said, "So is this instead of your job?" And you said no, and she said, "Oh," and moved on to your cousin's kitchen renovation, and you sat with the phone against your ear, feeling something deflate that you had not known was inflated. And somewhere inside that month, quietly, you began spending money that did not exist. Not really, you did not buy anything, but you ran the numbers forward. 340 times 12. Then what if it doubles? Then what if there are 4 of these? You did that arithmetic in the shower and in the car and in the 11 seconds before sleep, and the version of your life waiting at the end of it was so specific you could see the room you would be sitting in. You wrote the number in the notebook every night. Just the number. You had started keeping score. Then it stopped. Not a crash. Nothing as decent as a crash. It thinned. 11 a day became 6, became 3, became a Tuesday with none. And you told yourself Tuesdays were slow. And then there was a Wednesday. You changed the photographs. Nothing. You changed the price. Nothing. Then slightly worse. You spent $19 on advertising, watched it disappear across 4 days, and got back one order you are fairly certain would have happened anyway. You started refreshing. You know exactly how this went, because everyone who has ever built anything knows exactly how this went. You checked before the alarm had finished ringing. You checked at red lights. You checked in the bathroom at work, standing up, phone held at an angle, and the number was the same number it had been 90 seconds earlier because of course it was, and you refreshed it again anyway. There is a particular gesture, thumb dragging down a screen that has nothing new to say, and you performed it several hundred times a week without ever once deciding to. Nobody could tell you why it stopped. You asked in a forum. 3 people gave you 3 answers that contradicted each other. One of them was a woman called B, who did not tell you what to do. She asked one question instead. What changed the week before it dropped? You did not know. You had not been writing that down. You had been writing down the number. The lines in the notebook got shorter that month. Some nights it was a figure and a dash. Some nights you did not open it at all. So you tried another one, and another, and another, and another. And this is the stretch that people compress into a single sentence when they tell the story afterwards. The next few did not work. Because the compressed version is bearable, and the real one is 11 months long. Number 2 you were sure about. It did nothing. Number 3, you were so sure about that you ordered more of it than you should have, and it did almost nothing. And there are 4 boxes of it in the closet behind the winter coats. You do not have to look at them. Number 4, you launched in a hurry because you were frightened. Number 5, you copied from somebody who was winning, and you learned that copying the outside of a thing you do not understand is only an expensive way of guessing. Number 6, worked for 9 days. 9 days is worse than 0. 9 days proves it is possible, which means every failure after it belongs to you. Somewhere in there you stopped telling people. Not a decision. A slow withdrawal, question by question. When Keisha asked how it was going, you said, "Good, busy," which was half true, and changed the subject. When Donna asked, you said, "Fine." When Tobias asked, you said the thing you had been saying for months, which was, "It is picking up." And he believed you, and you hated that he believed you. You bought 2 more courses. You finished neither. You kept 11 tabs open at any given moment, and one of them had been open since March, and you never closed it, because closing it would have meant admitting you were never going to read it. At a dinner, somebody asked what you did on the side, and you started to explain, and a sentence and a half in, you heard your own voice from the outside. The vagueness of it. The way you kept saying, "sort of." And you finished too quickly and asked them a question about themselves. 11 times you thought, "This is the one." 11 times you were wrong. And every single time, the day before launch, the certainty felt exactly the same. That was the cruelest part. The feeling never learned anything. It got into the job. That is the thing you never planned for. You had protected the hour so carefully, 9:20 to 10:20, a fence around it, and it never occurred to you that the hour could not hold everything you were carrying, and that the rest of it had to go somewhere. It went everywhere. You sat in meetings and thought about the boxes in the closet. You sat at the kitchen table at 9:40 and thought about the meeting. You developed a talent for looking attentive that you were not proud of. You answered a question half a second late, twice, in a room where nobody noticed except you, and you noticed for both of them. You stopped volunteering for things. You had been for years the person who volunteered for things, and then in March, a document went out with a mistake in it. Not a catastrophe, a number in the wrong column, the kind of thing that gets caught and corrected and forgotten by everybody in the building. Except you had built your entire professional reputation on being the person who catches exactly that. Gerald called you in. And Gerald, with the reading glasses he pushes up into his gray hair and then forgets about, who has been managing people for 22 years and has seen every version of everything, Gerald did not tell you off. He said, "Is everything all right at home?" He said it kindly. He said it in the voice of a man fully prepared for you to say no, and who would have helped. And that was so much worse than being shouted at that you had to look at the corner of his desk for a second before you could answer. You said everything was fine. You went back to your desk and you sat there and you did the arithmetic you had been avoiding for 11 months, 14 months, a few $1,000s, every scrap of margin inside your own head. And the only measurable result was that you had become slightly worse at the one thing you were genuinely good at. That night, you opened the notebook. You wrote the date. You did not write anything after it. You should quit here. It would make a cleaner story. What actually happened is that you did nothing at all for 9 days. No refreshing, no tabs. The laptop stayed shut on the counter under a stack of mail, and the hour between 9:20 and 10:20 became an hour of nothing in particular, and you slept better than you had in a year. And you were not at peace. You were only absent. On the 10th day, you opened the first course again, the one you had bought 14 months ago and finished 40% of. You were not going to work on anything. You told yourself you were only going to see what you had missed. You went back to lesson 1. And lesson 1, the boring one, the one you had skipped through at 1.5 speed while eating dinner because you already knew this part, lesson 1 was about how to tell whether a problem is real before you try to solve it. You had skipped it. You had skipped it 11 times. There was no lightning. Nobody has ever had a revelation on a Tuesday night in their own kitchen and felt anything as dignified as a revelation. What you felt was a small, hot, specific embarrassment. The kind that arrives when you realize the answer was sitting in a place you had walked past on purpose. So you started again. Actually started. Notes this time, in the same notebook, on the pages after the blank one. And somewhere in the second week of that, without ever deciding to, you stopped asking the question you had asked every night for 14 months. The question had been, is it working? The new one, and it was so much smaller that it felt like giving up, was, what did I learn today? That is it. That is the whole thing. That is the hinge the entire story turns on, and it is so unimpressive that you were almost insulted by it. But watch what it does. Is it working has one correct answer, and every other answer is failure. What did I learn cannot be failed. A product that dies teaches you the shape of the thing that killed it. 12 wasted dollars buys a fact you get to keep. The question stopped being a verdict and became a receipt, and the weight came off your chest so suddenly that you noticed your own breathing. That night, the line in the notebook was not a number. It was a sentence. The 3s are where the truth is. I stopped reading the 3s in April. You looked at it for a while, then you turned off the light. Here is where you are now. Some of them work, some of them do not. There are 4 things running at the moment. 2 of them are quietly good. 1 is dying and you know exactly why. 1 has been up for 6 weeks doing absolutely nothing, and you are genuinely curious about it rather than sick about it. You still have the hour, 9:20 to 10:20. It is now, without competition, the best hour of your day. Not because of what it earns, but because it is 60 minutes in which you are visibly, measurably becoming better at something. You can see the improvement. There is almost nowhere else in adult life where you can see the improvement. You do not refresh anymore. You look once, in the morning, the way you would look at the weather. And the strangest thing, the thing you did not see coming at all, you are better at your job than you were before any of this began. Not despite it, because of it. Because you spent 14 months learning to look at a bad outcome without flinching, and it turns out that is a professional skill. Because you have read 10,000 complaints from strangers, and you can hear what somebody is actually asking for now. Because Gerald put you on the difficult account in the autumn, and you did not need it to go perfectly in order to keep working on it, and that steadiness is the thing he has spent 22 years trying to find in people. Both curves went up. Neither of them went up while you were watching. It is Thursday. The Thai place, 8 tables, the television nobody has identified. The booth by the window still wobbles. The tape on the vinyl is still the color of weak tea. 2 laptops on the table now. Keisha is 8 months in, and she is at the part where it stops for no reason. She has not said so. You can tell from how fast she says, "Good, busy." You do not tell her that it gets better, because that is a promise, and you do not have one. You say, "What did you learn this week?" She starts to answer with a number. Then she stops. Then she starts again. And you sit there in the wobbling booth with the curry going cold between you. 2 women building something small in the hours nobody sees, and neither of you is anywhere near where you want to be. And it has stopped mattering in the way it used to matter. That is the part nobody tells you. It does not have to be working for it to be worth it. It only has to be teaching you.